Welcome to the Putnam County Library Lunch and Learn. Today we're doing a Q&A session on the American Chestnut with Michael Hafner. Take it away, Mike.
Oh, thank you, Spencer. Yeah, so I went to Tech and got a degree in horticulture. I didn't really study the American chestnut, but recently I started at the library in May working here, and they had this book, and it was entitled The American Chestnut, The Life, Death, and Rebirth. And ever since I read the book, I've been just fascinated more and more with the chestnut. And actually, when I went to Tech, they were doing stuff with researching, back crossing the American chestnut. But when I graduated, I never really figured out how far they got with that. And I tried to get a forester to come in and talk about that because he might have known more. But that didn't pan out. But basically, this book taught me that, like, the American chestnut, when the blight came, like, they were actually told to just cut down every tree because they didn't think any trees would ever make it. And most people did. They cut down all the trees around. Well, some people were like, I'm not cutting down my trees, and they left them. And to this day, they are finding giant American chestnut trees still alive up there. And the book says they formed a super vigilance to the disease. So most of them did die. Most of the trees were gone. But every once in a while, you'll find a few here and there that have made it. And what they're doing, the book says, is they're taking the pollen from those trees and then crossbreeding them with the Chinese chestnut. But then after they get a hypervigilant or a better tree, gene-wise, they'll actually try to back cross it back to the American. So eventually they want it to be 99 to 100% American again. But it's great that they're finding some in the woods still, here and there, that are the American chestnuts still living. They're somehow surviving the blight. But the really cool thing is the book also talked about ways that they are, they are talking about bioengineering, and some people are okay with it, some people aren't. But even the way they're back crossing and the way they're trying different approaches, they're actually trying to take like a virus and entering it into the American chestnut to try to kill the fungus. So there's like 3 different ways that this book has showed that they're trying to make the American chestnut come back. And it's fascinating to me, and I encourage all of you, if you want to learn more, to read the book. I actually have the book out right now, but I will return it today, and you guys can put holds on it if you want to read it. But I would encourage reading it. It's such a good book if you are into this, and if you really want to learn more about the American chestnut. Was there any questions about the video? Is there anything in there that you wanted to ask about that might have been in the book that I could answer? No? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Have you read Overstory by Richard Powell?
So, not yet. I wonder if we have that one.
Yes, I'm sure you do. It's, well, I'm not sure you do. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But it is the story of the American chestnut.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and tell you one more thing. They probably hit on this at the beginning of the movie, but I had an issue at home and had to take care of it. But it said in the book that basically they want to bring this tree back for not only for us, because the chestnut was a large exporter. I mean, they made a lot of money off the chestnuts, bringing them other places and selling. But for wildlife, it was like the main forage for most of the animals in the forest. So it's like if we could bring it back, we'd have a better biodiversity of the forest. So I really think it would be a good thing to get back. And they have made good crosses that are actually making it. They don't know if they'll get giant and still make it, because what happens is, it says in the book, the American chestnut will never become extinct because it always suckers up from the base. But when it does, it usually doesn't make the nut. So if we could actually, make it so the trees will actually grow up to the size, make the nuts, and we could actually get it back in the forest, that would be an awesome thing. But the problem is, usually what happens is 3-4 years they start getting big, and then in about 7 or 8 years they'll start blooming, making fruit, but then the blight gets them before that makes the fruit, makes the nuts. So it is cool that they actually find some in the woods here and there, but the problem is we need more of them, basically.
Is the disease still around that killed them in the first place?
Oh yeah.
It's still around.
Oh yeah. Sadly, they have tried so much, but and that's why they're trying to work on the virus to attack the fungus. if they could introduce a virus that attacked the fungus, or if they could just back cross the Chinese and the American, if they could cross the Chinese American and then back cross it to be straight American, that's what they're working on. It's the disease resistancy of the Chinese chestnut is really up there, and the American chestnut doesn't have that resistance built in. So if they could cross them and then back cross to make it American again, that's what they're working on. The other thing is, like I said, they are working on bioengineering. I don't know how I feel about this myself because I don't know much about bioengineering.
Will that disease kill the Chinese chestnut also?
No, usually doesn't kill them. It can, they're not 100% resistant to it, but they do way better. Matter of fact, there are Chinese chestnuts to this day, even in Cookeville, Tennessee, that produce nuts every year. There's two, as soon as you're under Cane Creek Park on the right and left, those are Chinese chestnuts. And if you go in the late summer, early fall, usually about fall, they're full of nuts. Like, you can go collect them. I don't know if it's legal in that area to collect them, but you'd have to ask somebody in the Park Service first, probably. But I see people on the side of the road parked, and they're out there collecting Chinese chestnuts. But it would be awesome to actually get an American chestnut, alive again, because what it is, the book mentions, the American chestnut grows faster, it gets real tall, and it's straight. Really good for wood, but it's also really good for the nuts. So.
They made log cabins out of them, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
And rail fences?
Yeah, sure did, yeah. A matter of fact, it mentions in the book, when they cut them all down, they made fences around their properties with the wood and all. So they did use some of the wood. But the book also mentions that maybe if they didn't tell them to knock them all down, we'd still have hypervigilant trees left. But nobody knows if that's true or not, really. But they do notice that some of the farmers said, I'm not cutting mine down, and they left them, and they actually are still alive. So, one here, one there.
Do they have the chestnuts on them?
Yeah, they do. Kind of like that film, The Last Ones They Found, were full of chestnuts. They were filling up bags. They actually found an American chestnut growing in the woods. So they are still around. It's just that tree could get fungus too later on, but so far it's lived, and I like in the book, because I always thought, American chestnuts, they're extinct. Well, they're not extinct, and they never will be, because they always sucker up from the base. So if we could actually find a way of killing the fungus from the trees, they'd actually live. But the book never came to that conclusion. The book's talking more about just back crossing them to make them more disease resistant.
Well, wasn't there a time when there wasn't no fungus and they was growing everywhere?
Yeah.
And where did the fungus come from?
Came from Asia.
From Asia.
Yeah, we imported something. The book doesn't say exactly where and why, but it came from Asia. So it was something we imported that had the fungus in it. And in Asia, the fungus wasn't a problem. For some reason, it didn't. But once it got here, it attacked all of our chestnut trees. So, and it still is to this day. So, good question. Was there anybody else got some questions?
I've got one of these chestnut trees that's, I bought it out here at Growers Solution out here at south of
Yeah, I know where that is.
Got had it about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I noticed this is the first year that it's made nuts.
Okay, all
I
right.
don't know what happened to nuts. I think the squirrels got them or something.
Yeah.
But now, this is the first year. Now, is this chestnut tree gonna keep on doing what it does, or is it just gonna die?
Oh, it really depends what type it is. When you bought it, did they tell you, is it like a crossbreed of a...
It's supposedly 15/16 American chestnut.
Okay.
And 1/16 Chinese chestnut.
Yep. So that is part of the breeding program, the back crossing program. And I bet you'll have a good chance of it living. It really depends on if they hit it on the mark or not. The book says that some of them that have been back crossing have worked and they're more disease resistant, but nothing's been 100%. What I would make sure you just keep looking for is, you see the blight in the trunks. You'll see it looks like almost a burnt area starting on the trunk. Have you ever seen fire blight in like an apple tree?
No.
Or a pear tree? So if you ever see fire blight in a pear tree, it looks about the same. The trunk will kind of look like a canker forms or be a different color. That's usually the sign of the disease, and it's always in the trunk first, it seems. So,
What year did the disease start killing off the trees?
so basically, 1904 was about the pinnacle of it, but it started a little bit before that. So around the 1900s, I'd say. But it started, usually, I think the book said it started up north. I think it was in New Jersey, like somewhere up there, but then it just went down very quickly. I think it said by 1904, it pretty much got all the way down to Mississippi. So that was, and I might be wrong on the exact dates, but 1904 was the big thing where it said the blight got most of them. So, good questions. Good questions. Anybody else?
Did you invite people from the American Chestnut Foundation that were here in town this weekend did you inform them of this at all? The people who were on that film were here this weekend at Heidelberg's. They were giving out the chestnut seedlings and other things, and took field trips to the 2 chestnut groves on TTU.
Yeah, no, we didn't.
Okay.
I actually just heard about that 2 days ago, and I don't have any contacts. I mean, I don't know anybody from Tech anymore. I did contact.
It wasn't anything with Tech.
Oh, okay.
It was
Gotcha.
the American Chestnut Foundation.
Yeah.
The website is right on their movie.
Gotcha.
And the people who were in the movie, except for President Carter and some others who were dead, were here.
Yeah, that would have been awesome to get it all together, but
They
we
have a
didn't.
local chapter and are willing to do outreach anytime you would want them to be interested. They've done
Awesome.
outreach here a couple of times, but 10 or 20 years ago. And so they are very interested in finding out which of those trees that were handed out 10 or 20 years ago are still around.
That's
Because we have 2 of them within 10 miles of here, one in Edgar, more than 10 miles, one in Edgar Evans State Park and one or 2 in Jackson County.
oh,
They're
that's awesome.
extremely large.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Looks like Jimmy Carter was interested in these trees.
Yeah.
They got his name up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see his name in the book, but yeah, I pretty much on this one I went off what I read in the book, because I'm not an expert on American chestnuts.
Well, thank you for reading a book on
Yeah,
it. We really
yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. I really enjoyed it, and I recommend that book to anybody. I will bring it back today, and if anybody wants to put a hold on it.
What's the name, Mike, for the?
So the whole name is American Chestnut: The Life, Death, and Rebirth of a Perfect Tree.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.